QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021 bank feed to bank feed transaction. Let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are in our bank feeds test file. We currently have the open windows open. You can open the open windows by going to the view dropdown, selecting the open windows list. We've uploaded bank feeds for both our checking account and we've taken a look at a credit card account. Now we want to think about a transaction where we're going to pay off the credit card account from the checking account, both accounts driven by the bank feeds. So how do we go record that transaction so it's met on both sides and seen from the bank feeds on both sides? To see that first, let's open up the report of the balance sheet. Go into the reports dropdown. Company and financial. We want to take a look at the balance sheet standard. Going to change the date up top in the customize section from 01/01/20 to 12/31/20, and we will say OK. Now we're going to be saying the checking account should be going down at this point, so we can pay down the credit card account down here. Now the credit card account, this activity, we're going to wait until it basically clears the bank now. And once it clears the bank, then we're going to record it in our system. So it's going to show up on the bank feeds, but it's going to show up on the bank feeds twice. It's going to show up on the bank feeds on the credit card side of things, as well as on the credit card side, as well as on the banking side of things. Now there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can do this using the matching principle, or the matching function within the system, meaning you're going to record it on one side and then match it on the other side. Or you can use basically kind of a clearing account, and that's what I've used in the past, is basically a clearing account that will increase and then decrease. So I'll show you kind of both of those methods, and I'll explain my thought process on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a clearing account under the credit card. I like to put it down here in the liability section, right in the credit card section, and then I'm going to call it just a credit card clearing account that's going to be under the subcategory of the credit cards. So let's do that first. I'm going to go to the lists drop down, going to take a look at the chart of accounts, and then we're going to go down to the accounts down below. I'm going to say I want a new account. Let's add a new account. I want to make it a credit card type of account, and then continue, and then I'm just going to call it the credit card clearing. Now you might want a different one for each type of credit card if you have multiple credit cards, or you might just use one, because it should just go up and back down. You should be able to see the payments coming from both sides, and then it'll just go back down to zero once the two sides have cleared out. So then I'm going to say save and close. And so I'm not going to set up anything else other than that. So there we have it. There's our credit card clearing account. So then I'm going to close this back out and say, let's say yes here. And so that looks good. And then I'm going to go to the banking drop down. Let's look at our bank feeds and then go to the bank feed center. So we've got our one institution. It's got our two tabs down here for the checking account and the credit card account. I'm in the checking account. I'm going to look at the unrecognized items, and then I'm going to sort by the downloaded item and see if I can find the credit card payments in that way. So here's the credit card payments we have down below. So let's look at this one on 6/8 down here for the 537.22. We can find it on the credit card side of things as well. Now note, if I go over to this card, the second bank feed, I'm going to lose the sorting. I'll have to resort it every time. But if I go to the credit card, we have that 537.22 on this side of things. So it's on both sides. So how are we going to enter this? Do we want to enter it on the banking side first, or on the credit side first? And do we want to put it to a clearing account, or do we want to use the matching kind of process? We'll take a look at a couple different examples. I think most people probably monitor their checking account, more. You can see them on both sides at the same time, because they should be pretty close, because it's an electronic transfer of when the payments happen if you download your information at the same point in time. But I think maybe most people might look at their checking account more often and basically be clearing that, so they might see it here first if you're looking into it. So then I would say, well, let's say we see this side first, and I want to record this side first, and then I'm going to record it on the credit card side of things. Well, then if I enter the information, I can say, okay, I'm going to have the payee, and let's make this cell a little bit longer here. I'm going to say payee, we're going to say new, and I'm going to say we want a vendor, and maybe I want to be a little bit more specific on this one. Call it the Wells Fargo credit card. Let's do that. Wells Fargo credit card is the vendor, And then I'm going to say OK. And then on the account, now on the account, if we're paying it from the checking account here, we could go to the other side being the credit card right there. And if we do that, then we should be able to see it on the other side and use the matching process. So I'll show that later, but we also could try this clearing account, putting it to the clearing account so we can see it basically increase and then decrease the clearing account. Let's check that out first. So I'm going to put it to the clearing account. I'm not going to do this for the memorizing this transaction, although we could, because it should be a standard transaction. We could put all the payments to Wells Fargo into this clearing account, and then I can see them removed from the clearing account, which I kind of like to see. So, although the matching works well too. So let's go ahead and add this and see if that does what we expect. We're going to say OK. And now let's go to the balance sheet. And I'm going to say, all right, the checking account should have gone down by that payment to Wells Fargo. So here it is. Here's the payment. So that makes sense, of course. It decreases the checking account. Going into it, it looks like a check form, just like all decreases. So I'm going to close this back out, close this back out. The other side, we put to this clearing account. So now it's in the credit card clearing. It didn't go directly to Wells Fargo. It's in the clearing account below it. So this is basically the total of our credit cards at this point. If I double click on that, then I can see the activity here. Now let's go to the other side of things. The other side of things then is going to be decreasing the credit card amount here to go down to the balance that's still there, and it's going to be removing this, taking this back down to 0. So let's go back to the bank feeds, and I'm going to say, all right, let's go back to the bank feeds. Let's go to the credit card side, and this item then, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to say, all right, now there's a payment. So I'm going to say the payee. Let's add the payee and say new. And I'm going to say other here because we're going to be paying off the Wells Fargo Visa card again here. But this is going to be the payment side of things. So we're basically paying the institution. So I'm going to say Wells Fargo Visa payments, let's say. And then I'm going to say OK. And then the account I'm going to take this to is going to be that clearing account here. So we're going to go on down and say it's going to go to the credit card clearing account. And then again, we could save this if this was our normal transaction. We could make a rule for it. But for now, I'm not going to, so we can test a couple different other ways we can do this. So I'm going to say add, and let's add that. So there we have that. If I go back to the balance sheet then, now we're going to see on this side of things, we're going to go into the credit card. And so now the credit card is now, a payment has been included in the credit card for this item. If I double click on it, there it is. And then if I close this back out, we're going to say close this back out. We see the other account has now gone down to 0. If you want to see the activity in it, I usually go to the trial balance, go into the reports drop down, accounting and taxes trial balance, and then change the dates from 01/01/20 to 12/31/20. And we want to take a look at the credit card. So there is the 0 balance. Double clicking on it, we then see the activity. So you can see it increasing and decreasing. I kind of like to see that. Although you can use the matching item and not have this clearing account, and that would be a little bit faster. So we can then go to the bank feeds and say, okay, let's do another one. I'm going to go back to the checking account here, and I'm going to say, let's sort this here again. And if I go down, let's sort it the other way. If I go down, let's do this one, the 390. If I go back to the credit card, we see this 390 here. So now I could say, well, let's go to the checking account first again. Let's assume we see it there first, and we like to work with the checking account first. So I'll go to the 390 at the bottom here, and now let's record this. This is going to go to Wells Fargo again, Wells Fargo credit card, and I'll keep the memo, and we could put a memo of the payment and what the statement date was and whatnot. Memos would be good. But I'm going to select the drop down, and this time I'm going to take the other side. Instead of going to the clearing account, I'm going to take it directly to the other bank feed account, the credit card bank feed account, and then see if we can use the matching concept on the other side to match it out. So I'm going to say, okay, let's do that, and then I'm going to add it and say, okay. So we'll add that, and so then if I go to the balance sheet, let's check it out now. If I go to the balance sheet, we should have another payment up here going from the checking account. So there it is at the 390. So there it is. There's the payment going out here, closing that back out, closing this back out. And then if we go to the credit card, double clicking on this, you can see there it is, and it's not checked off, meaning it hasn't cleared the bank fees yet. So we haven't like reconciled it yet. That's why it doesn't have the little thing. So we're going to reconcile the credit card like we do with the bank account. So then I can close it out and say, okay, it's there. Let's see if we can find it in the bank feeds. So if I go to the bank feeds then, and then I go back on over here and I say that that was the 390, and it's recognized it now. So it's in recognized. So it actually found it for us. It said, hey, we matched that out for you. Is that the right one? And if we say confirm, then it will not do anything different now because it's already recorded to that account, but it'll put a little check mark saying it's been cleared now. So I'm going to confirm that. And then if I go to the balance sheet and into the credit card activity, now that item has been confirmed, right? With the little check mark here. So it's or a little whatever, that lightning bolt or something like that. So that says it's been cleared. So that's a little bit faster. I still I still use a clearing account to do these, but you can see how you can use that reconciling process. I still like to see if there's something wrong. I like to see that clearing account telling me, hey, these payments don't match up. There's something that didn't match up there. If it's going from one account to the other, for some reason, I still kind of like to have that clearing account. But it's not necessary, as you can see. You can match up. Now, you could do it the other way, too. I could go to the bank feeds, and we can go here and say I want to go uncategorized area, and now I'm looking at this one. This one is another one, that 375.63. If I go to the credit card, then I see it 375.63 over here. Now you might then first go to the credit card. You might say, okay, I see this on this side of things, on the checking account. Maybe you would like to verify it on the credit card side first and say, okay, I see it here. I want to record it on this side and then match it and then use the matching function to see it on the checking account side. So you could do it that way too. I can go over here and I want to say this is going to be I think Wells Fargo Visa payment, and I won't have a memo here. A memo would always be good, but we're going to say then it's going to go to the account, and I want to put this to the checking account now. So this is going to go to the checking account. The other side's going to go into the checking account. I think this is a little bit less natural for people because people usually work from the checking account. I usually think about, if cash is involved, I usually work from the checking account and then pay something else off. So I would usually think of it as a check going from the checking account, paying off the Visa. But again, you might go this way too because there's going to be less activity over here on the Visa account. So now the other side's going to be going to the checking account, which will be a decrease to the checking account. And then we can auto add this. So once again, you could set a rule up if you want this to be your kind of normal system. You could set a rule up that will do that automatically. I still, like I say, I like putting it to the clearing account so that I could set up a rule. And then if there's a problem, if the things don't reconcile, I could see both sides of the transaction not clearing in the clearing account, and that helps me to kind of figure it out myself. So I still think there's some value in the clearing account, but it is one more step and one more account to deal with. So in any case, I'm going to go ahead and add this and say yes. And so then let's go up to the balance sheet. So now we made that payment. So if I go here, we made that payment, which was, I think, this one that we just did. And so 375, if I go to the bank feeds and I go back to this one, we made a payment there, and it might be recognized now. Now it recognized it, so auto matched it. So yeah, the 375.63, it found it now on the other side. And then if I go to the checking account, so that it was that 375, going back to the balance sheet into the checking account, we should see that 375 here as well. So there it is. Now it's a decrease. It's not checked off yet because it hasn't cleared yet. So we haven't cleared it yet on the bank feeds. So let's go back to the bank feeds. And now it went from unrecognized to recognized, not because we have a rule, because it said, hey, look, there's something that you put in there that matches exactly this other side. Is that what you wanted? Should we match that up? And once we say, yeah, confirm that, it'll put the little check mark. It won't do any more transaction. The transaction's already been made, but it'll put a confirmation that'll help us to reconcile. So I'll say confirm, and then yes. And then if we go back to that transaction report, that 375 now has the little check mark. So when we do the bank reconciliation, it'll already be checked off. We're basically reconciling as we go through the process with the bank feeds on that case. So those are the different ways that you can think of how to do the intercompany transfer. One, you set up the clearing account and you put one going into the clearing account, one going out, and in that way you can see the detail. The clearing account should always clear out, and if it doesn't, I think it gives you a nice thing to go to kind of see if everything matches up. But you don't need to do that. You could go from the checking account and just basically pay to the other account, which is going to be the credit card account. And then I think that would be the most natural way to go if you're not going to use the clearing account. And then you would just use the matching principle on the credit card side to reconcile it. Although you might want to go from the credit card because there's going to be less activity, like payment activities on the credit card side. So you might go over here and basically then match it back the other way. Another double check that you might have as you do this is to actually find the transactions when you're going to check it off on the checking account side, to actually download the Visa transactions at the same time so that you can see them before you check them both off. So if you don't want to use a clearing account, for example, it might be a best practice to have both of these two things open, match them up before you do the matching thing so that you know you're in agreement every time as you move forward.